Alright, hey everyone. So, essentially what we're going to be doing at this point in time, right, is we're going to be analyzing how certain compositions go against insect hunters. Now, I've been doing a little bit of research, right, in a couple of my games. I've been noticing that insects are very strong. Like, I'm sure I'm not the first one to the party when I say they're insanely strong, right? But, essentially what we're going to be looking at is how other compositions do, right, against them specifically. So, and the Underlords obviously is interchangeable. Like, as long as someone can give me like a solid talent list, I basically picked out probably the best of these 6 talents for this situation. Of course, that's only from my experience of an E6. So, as you can see, we have Chaotic Hunter, Exploited Weakness, Broken Hearts, Broken Bones, Sympathy Pains, and obviously the Chaotic Golem, which is quite effective. One of the more quite effective abilities of an E6, because I believe Enthrall is currently bugged or otherwise. Just again, feel free to please leave me your compositions. I will be analyzing the knight compositions as well, obviously. So what we have here is on our board we have the insect buff, and you can see the first thing you'll initially see is that there is way more high tier units on my side of the board versus the knights. Well, first and foremost, this is usually what the knights compositions look like. Essentially, is what you see is this Viper to buff this Dragon Knight up. This IO in the backline is interchangeable. I am considering to change this out, but essentially this is a build offered to me by a friend. Obviously, the positioning is also his choosing. So again, we'll run this and then we'll check out the results later. And full disclosure, I have already seen this play out. Obviously, it could be different every time, but should be, as you can see, right, if we look at the damage stats after this match, you will see quite a few interesting results about this. So, the win ends, and you notice that was quite the overwhelming victory, right? And that's not to say that a lot of the units weren't low HP, of course not. I mean, we can run the simulation again to just show you how it's really done. Also, probably adjust some volume levels a little bit here. Maybe like that. Maybe it's okay. Maybe it's just me, right? Alright, anyways. So, the Luna and the Dragon Knight does so much damage here. As you can see, like, that is about 1900 damage just by themselves. But obviously their issues is that their damage is spread out and they don't necessarily do the most damage on a single target ever, right? Meanwhile, we have a Daedalus on the Arc Warden, which people can argue, you know, it's much stronger. It's one of the best hyper carries in the game, which is a good reasonable argument, right? I'm not taking that away. We also have a Weaver, right? One of the best hunters, I would say. That hits 3-star, interacts as an assassin, also completes our insect buff, right? But again, you saw that the entire conflict starts here, and you see that the glaives are bouncing through quite a lot of units. Chaos Knight instantly falls here; he's only 1-star. Burrow Strike lands, connects here. Dragon Knight, again, doing as much damage as he can, but attacking the Weaver actually is nothing. He just completely evades. And you can see how much just hiding does for this composition, right? And obviously the simulations are always slightly different, but anyways, I think I wanted to note, right, so let's make some ground rules. If anybody wants to offer something that could potentially like, you know, some changes to this, obviously I will be looking at different kinds of builds against the insect hunters, right? So the ground rule is that you get to choose two 3-star units. They cannot be tier 4 plus, right? They cannot be tier 4 plus. The units you choose must be anything tier 3 below to 3-star, right? It's just reasonable. This is essentially, we're analyzing from a realistic perspective in a sort of 1v1 scenario with items, right? Obviously no tier 5s as well. So in terms of the items, each player is given 2 tier 3s and 2 tier 4s, which is again pretty reasonable, to be honest, in like by round 30. Obviously, there's going to be more minor items. I'm kind of considering adding people's choices of tier 1s and tier 2s. But again, that just basically, I think that length of micromanagement shouldn't be necessary. Obviously, the Helm of Undying is game-changing. Taunt is already one of one of the game changers as well, right? Those kind of items are essentially groundbreaking, even for like a few seconds of distraction or a few seconds of time borrowed. But what we're looking at here is the top half of how the fight is supposed to go, right? Helm of the Undying and Target W aren't necessarily gonna be the only sole factors to change the fight around, right? So first and foremost, this composition, this knight composition clearly has positioning problems, specifically in E6, right? I personally, because there's no space, the summoned unit doesn't actually pop up. So what if we put the Viper in the corner? He's no longer an assassin, so we can't really put him in a corner. So let's say we put him over here, and then we put the Bat Rider like right here, right? So then the Bat Rider will have the Knight buff, because that's another problem we have, was that the Knight buff wasn't actually getting proc. And how about we swap out the Dazzle and Luna? That way the Luna also gets a much more relative close distance for a Knight buff, and obviously we still have Refresher's Orb. Now, obviously, Essence is much better. Essence is a much better item on Necrophos, I think. Right? Again, we'll change out some units in a second here, but right now we're just kind of seeing these compositions collide, and we're just trying to reposition so that it makes more sense. So as you can see, the Luna actually gets much more time to attack. But the tether on the Dragon Knight instantly drops here. And the biggest issue you're noticing is that Sniper, Drow, and both Arc Wardens are completely uncontested. And because Hopkin is such a good hard carry late game as well, like he's legitimately another hard carry in your lineup, right? You notice that these things are uncontested, and Knights can't really touch those, right? So let's change some stuff up. So first and foremost, we can obviously there's a healer buff here, right, and the troll buff and stuff. So what if we replace Io? Because Io is not even that good, right? I know people will probably say, oh, this is a bad pickup. So, but let's give a Sven, right? And let's assume this is tier 2 Sven, because we do have a disruptor on the opposing side, right? It's only fair. So we'll put the Dazzle over here. Let's say an E6 goes here so that the ranged unit pops up behind. Let's put the Sven where the Chaos Knight is, right? So that he's right in front of this. And that's about it I can see here, unless we want the Dragon Knight to not have any attack speed bonuses. The Sven does do way more damage, but again, we will see what happens here. Another factor to important note here is that the Hunter Insect combo actually has quite a lot of CC with the Kunkka and the Tiny, right? And you notice there's no Tidehunter. So definitely we'll be seeing how Mage strats operate with this. The Sven actually does quite a lot of cleave damage here, and actually it's turning the fight much more. The front line all dies, and that's an interesting change of pace. As you can see here, Luna, Dragon Knight, does way more damage when God Strength is popped. Because again, I think that's sort of weakness with Knights, that they don't do enough damage. And I think that's actually quite a lot of credit not given to heroes like Sven. Because you notice, Sven actually, just the replacement of Io and adding Sven kind of changed the direction of that fight a lot. So that's just some important notes for anybody who wants to play Knights, right? Obviously the jail has changed. I will take a look at that in a second. But that is a lot of people's perspective on Sven. It's like, it's a useless Knight. But as you see there, once again, I'll just show to see if that wasn't really a fluke, or maybe perhaps just some bad RNG going our way. But yeah, as you can see here, like the once God Strength is popped, the Luna does so much damage. So is the Dragon Knight. So Sven dies here. The cleave you see goes through, and you can see just the overwhelming power as Luna is completely uncontested. He just continues to attack. Sniper unfortunately can't do them by himself. Obviously the fight was much closer. We can obviously make some adjustments with our hunter positions, right? Because Sven is now here. We can kind of make adjustments. Like this Luna's positioning is probably the safest place on this board, because I mean we clearly saw there's nothing that was harming him. So what if, right? We'll change up some item positioning. So let's put Maelstrom on Sniper and put the Maelstrom on Weaver and then Moonshard on Sniper, and we'll see if that makes any difference here. So again, the Sven on the left hand side, once he pops God Strength, is actually something you have to note about. So the Luna is still alive. God Strength finally pops, right? And you can see that the Luna is still doing quite a lot of damage. And actually, that switch up changed the fight a lot. Wow. As you can see there, the fight just changed completely. I'm not actually quite sure what happened, so we'll re-simulate that, right? We'll see what happens here. So Tiny gets the toss off on Abaddon, who has a Refresh Storm. Glaive's trying to follow through, but again, at the moment, Luna doesn't do any damage. I think it's because the Sven is silenced. So Sven ults, and then your damage resistance disappears, and you see all the back line doing so much damage. Static Storm is up again, right? And then Luna has to kind of deal with this. But when you pop God Strength like that, you lose your resistances. You lose, I believe, 50% damage resistance. And that's kind of major, right? Okay, we'll look at it one more time. So once again, you see Luna doing quite a lot of damage here. Like, Dragonite and Luna are doing so much work. And again, I think the main factor of Dragonite's lower damage output is because he gets kited by the Weaver. Weaver comes to the back here, kills off a D6, and then just leaves. And that's why I kind of initially put the Moonshard on the Weaver, but I guess Sniper Moonshard is always going to be much stronger. The Weaver's alive at the end of this with 131 HP. So you notice Weaver's actually quite a very strong unit in this kind of Insect Hunter composition. Maybe, in fact, in a specific Hunter composition because of that distraction. Like, if we just track Weaver's positioning here. So Weaver's down here, right? Tsukuchi's in, and then he attacks from the back. Dragonite had to turn around, gets hit with the bolt, and then silenced. And then you see Weaver doing so much damage. Chaos Knight dies. Sven gets the God Strength off, but look at the Weaver in the back. Kills an E6 off. Tsukuchi's forward. Attacks the Viper. Viper dies. Although that's not the biggest deal here. The biggest deal is this Luna. The Luna actually doesn't glaive to the Weaver, and when he autos the Weaver, he just Tsukushi's out. And that's actually impressive from the Weaver. So again, this is just one composition. We'll be looking at other compositions as well. Obviously, again, we can make some fine tuning adjustments here. Let's put the corner open at the back, right? And I guess this looks solid, right? We'll simulate again. We'll just move them one space to the left a little bit. So the toss positioning should be different. And Sven is actually in this scenario not dead yet. Finally gets killed off here. And another Board Strike comes out actually because Sand King doesn't die quick in time. And you notice the insects actually, I forgot to explain about this, but the insects are actually providing a lot of damage because the outside, right? The outside ring of the Knight strat is just getting completely are getting 30% miss rate. And yes, it's not really a big deal until you realize one of them is Dragonite. So what if we protect Dragonite in a sense, right? We'll put Necrophos in a much more compromising position. Let's say the back line position wasn't the problem. So let's look at it with the Dragonite basically safe from the insect buff, right? So the insects come in, they don't actually affect the Dragonite, and we'll see how much that changes. So Static Storm comes in, right? God Strength pops. Sven actually gets an auto hit off. So the damage output is massive, still massive here. Luna trying to glaive through actually might be very close here. It's up, and you can see actually the massive difference of not having evasion, and it's up to an E6 versus Sniper here. And Sniper just kind of kills an E6 because an E6 doesn't do as much by herself, right? Or actually, she does not have quite a lot of HP. I think she's not level 10. So I think that may have been an oversight, right? Let's give her maximum HP and run that simulation again. Because again, that came by to inches, right? And an E6 was completely unharmed. So again, we'll see here if that changes much, or if that was just a sort of a fluke in the numbers values. And no, it looks like it's going to be really affecting how the game state occurs here. Another Static Storm appears. But you can see the glaives doing so much work here. And yeah, yes, that did affect so much more of how that went. And it's much closer. Much closer. So yeah, that's quite interesting, right? The Knights are suddenly now better. And we're kind of sort of thinking, right? So the positioning of Arc Warden maybe perhaps could be improved, putting him forward much more. Let's see how that goes, because again, currently our issue is the positioning. So how about we do something like this, right? Hobgoblin much closer, an Arc Warden in the back line, and the summon doesn't actually immediately start attacking. So I think maybe that was also an issue. Perhaps Hobgin is actually also level 1. So what we'll do is actually reposition and then give a Hobgin more buffs, because I think definitely the positioning wasn't a problem, because it was much strong. We had a much better win earlier, right? So we'll do it like this once again, and then we'll stop these oversights with these Underlords, right? So this will be probably our last couple of simulations here to see if that changes much. So positioning is perfectly the same as last time, and we'll see if that push forward changes. Luna glaiving through finally kills a Weaver. There's quite a lot of Knights still alive, but this time you notice that the Hobgin is still alive. Yeah, I think that's a pretty good counter to the insects actually. Is that because Dragonite isn't missing anymore, the splash is actually doing quite a lot more. Again, there's quite a few adjustments that could be done. Let's say I put the Broodmother here, right? And let's simulate that one more time. So we'll see if there's actually anything we can do here to beat the Knight composition. The bolt lands. Oh, Tiny dies. So the Weaver in the back actually taking quite more significant damage, and he's attacking the enemy companion in the back. Sven's still alive, so that cleave is gonna do much. Drow dies instantly, and the Assassinate. Unfortunately, you guys are noticing the Assassinate isn't actually going on the decent target. It's in fact going on the Luna. So what if we forego the Disruptor for Gyrocopter? Now this, from my theory, I'm pretty sure this just means that this goes worse for us, right? Because we no longer have that AoE blind. But you know, we'll see. We'll give it the benefit of the doubt. Perhaps Gyrocopter can change this fight scale. Call down. Unfortunately, not proving that to us. Alright, God Strength finally procs, but... Oh, I see. That's the weakness. Alright. That's good to know. And this is, I think, good to know for all Knight players out there. The Gyrocopter wasn't a problem. It was the fact that because Disruptor's ulti no longer actually started ramping up Sven's mana. Follow the Sven's mana here. Like, this fight can continue going. Right? So remember, Luna does way more damage when Sven finally pops God Strength. But you can see here, Sven doesn't pop God Strength until she's already half HP. In which case all of her front line is already dead. And because Sven is melee, she's getting just chipped off by insects and just dies here. And obviously an E6 does not provide much in the late game. So the important thing we discovered here is, first of all, right, insects do not do amazing against Knights. Like, clearly it's quite a close battle. The second thing to note is that Sven is actually pretty good when you're Knight strats. And it's genuinely actually a solid addition, especially if you have a Luna and Dragonite, because then they just do so much damage. Another thing to note is when you're facing insects, if you do try and corner strat, which I don't like corner strats anymore, what I think is the best course of action is putting these hard carries in the middle, so that there is no insects that can touch them for quite a while. And I think that was much more one of the main reasons why a lot of damage was done, right? You saw that the two frontline over here just did so much, or rather the two damage did so much when we had Disruptor, right? So essentially, if you have hard carries, put them in the center, especially against insects, right? I think that's a vocal point there. Another thing to note, right, is that the Underlord is dependent. So again, we have to sort of simulate with a Hobgin Knight strat. I haven't personally seen that because everybody runs an A6, and again, like, I think there needs to be more variation, but you know, you can't really change that. One more thing, again, to note, Sven is actually very good, but you have to get him the mana. Potentially, you want, I believe it is the Brooch. So you either want Brooch of the Martyr, right? You want Brooch of the Martyr, put him on him, and get that God Strength off as soon as possible, so that the Dragonite and the Luna actually does damage, or else you're gonna end up with something like this, right? If again, we'll simulate this. You end up with something like this, where the God Strength actually doesn't proc until way later. God Strength finally procs here, and Luna should not. It's too late. right? By the time God Strength is procced, it's kind of too late. You notice there, it's too late at that point.
Time for profit.
So yeah, that was a good run, good investigation, and the next time again we'll be following Knight composition, Insect Hunters compositions versus let's try mages, and probably I think I'll do a Fantastic Four build next. So yeah, thank you so much, and yeah, I'll see you next time.